Hello, and thank you for joining the Friday Night Live on the Walt Weekly podcast. I am your host, Walter Latham Sr., and I am joined by Michelle Sweeney McCombs, your co-host. Michelle will also be monitoring the chat. Okay, so if you have any questions or any comments, please put them in the chat. All right. Tonight, we are being honored by the newly elected Bronx Borough President. She is a history maker and a history shaker. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Michelle for the introduction of our honored guest. She's been here 3 times, folks.
Yes.
This is her third time. Time, and she's a great friend of the Walt Weekly podcast.
Yes, she is.
Let me turn it over to Michelle.
Yes. Thank you, Walter, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Walt Weekly Friday Night Live. Thank you to our live audience for joining us, and please follow the Walt Weekly and share this podcast by clicking the share button below. The Friday Night Live is brought to you by Michelle Sweeney Hair and Skincare. Also, our intro and outro music is provided by Uncle Nephew. Joining us tonight, our panel members, Christopher Sweeney out of New Jersey, retired New York sanitation worker and CEO of Johnny Roof's Smokehouse. Also joining us, panel member Gene Edwards, Mill District Leader out of the Bronx, New York. So now we have such a wonderful guest that's rejoining us right now, and I would like to introduce her, Miss Vanessa L Gibson. She's an American politician who currently serves as the Borough President of the Bronx, New York. She served as member of the New York City Council, representing the 16th District from 2014 to 2021 as a Democrat. She was also elected November 21st to a 4-year term beginning January 22nd, running on a platform focused on recovery from COVID-19 impact, food insecurity, and housing instability. She is the first female and first African-American Bronx Borough President. Please, everyone, welcome Vanessa L Gibson. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Hard work pays off.
Thank you. So grateful to be on Walt Weekly. God bless you guys.
Yes, God bless.
Thank you. Okay. I guess you're going to turn it over to me. And I just want to welcome Vanessa again. And Vanessa, what is the correct way to address a Bronx Borough President? I've been looking for that.
Well, it's okay. I mean, a lot of people call me Madam President, Borough President. Right. Yeah, it's fine. Either way, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I like the Madam part because you earned that respect. All right, Madam Gibson, let me just take this opportunity to congratulate you on your election and to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us today.
Thank you.
You have blown, yes, and you have blown through the glass ceiling for African-American men and women with this historic accomplishment of becoming the first Black Bronx Borough President. So let me just give you a shout out for that and just thank you. And now we're going to be getting into the questions.
Okay.
All right. And it's also apropos, for Black History Month that you will be a groundbreaker. You have 1.3 million constituents within the borough of the Bronx. How does that feel? The gravity and the weight of having the responsibility of that many people. Yeah, and the portfolio that comes along with that.
So let me say it's an honor and a privilege to be the 14th Borough President, to have made history a few weeks ago as the first African-American and female elected Borough President. It's a great honor that I do not take for granted because I recognize that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams and aspirations. All that they ever hoped for, I am a living product of their labor. And as the borough president, it's my responsibility to make my borough better, to be a collaborator and organizer. And coming from the city council representing 187 and now growing to a borough of over 1. It can seem overwhelming because the Bronx is a big borough. There's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of neighborhoods of diversity, of culture, of music, of food, of so many different nationalities and ethnicities, but all great people. And I want to focus on the things that we all have in common as compared to what divides us. And so it may seem overwhelming and challenging, but for me, I'm ready to lead. I am ready to learn more, to build. And the good thing is I have a staff. I left the city council with a staff of 5 people, and now I have over 70 people that work in the office of the Bronx Borough President. So it's really an honor and really a privilege.
All right. Do you have what you would call a 90-day baseline or achievement or goal or milestone that you put out there saying, okay, by X time, in 90 days, this will be implemented or that will be implemented, or these issues will be addressed, or you see some type of evidence that we are moving in the correct direction?
That's a great question. When I ran on the Forward Together campaign last year, I had a blueprint and a vision that I put forth during the campaign for the Bronx and for the residents of this borough. And I believe it's 100 days. And certainly there are lots of things that we want to do in these first 3 months. A lot of the issues and challenges we face are very systemic, and they are happening for a reason. Certainly poverty and gun violence, public safety, and health disparities are issues that are really embedded in the borough and in the city. And it's going to take more than 100 days to tackle those. But I am putting forth my blueprint. I'm making announcements. The first thing I had to do when I got to Borough Hall was assess the staff, talk to the staff that have been in the office of Borough President for years, understand the work they've done, their responsibilities. I had to bring in my executive team, my circle. And those are things I did at the start in the first couple of weeks of my administration. But one thing that happened that hasn't really happened to anyone is that I was faced with a horrific 5-alarm fire on January 9th that I had to respond to that took the lives of 17 people. And then after that, we had a building explosion. We had a number of different incidents around gun violence, including an 11-month-old baby that was shot in her car seat and a shooting at a local hospital. None of these things are normal, and I did not imagine that they would happen to me in my first couple of weeks. So a part of me feels like January was a month of challenge and great adversity, but we were able to respond and deal with it. But of course, it just kind of set me back a little bit in terms of what I wanted to do for January. So now I feel like I have to catch up.
I want the audience to know, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were inaugurated on December 31st.
Correct.
Right? And you have a 4-year term. So you've been in there 7 weeks almost. That's it.
That's right.
Boy, I mean, I see a lot of you. I see a lot of Mayor Adams.
Yes.
And I feel sorry for y'all guys because it's just like just a hurricane just hit you. Boom. But I know that I have every confidence. So let me move on. But I just want to know people to appreciate, the situation that you found yourselves in. It's not easy. You don't have time to, gradually get up to par. It's like you just got thrown right in the deep end. I just want to say that.
That's right. Sure did.
Any questions for Madam Gibson before I move
Yes, I
on
have
from
a
the panel?
question, Ms. Gibson. I have a question. How does it feel being the first female, African-American, first female borough president? Do you have any challenges as being a woman in this position?
I have lived with challenges all my life, of political life, of being an elected official for over 10 years. It is a challenge. And sometimes if you are the type of person that lets it get the best of you, it will. But I'm not that type of person. I'm thankful that I have an incredible network, a circle of sisters, my Black women that support me, that uplift me, motivate me, encourage me, and remind me that at the end of the day, I'm a child of God. And this has always been God's plan and not my plan. And all I did was follow suit with whatever he wanted for my life. And, during my time in elected office, there were many people that told me I couldn't do it. But there were a lot of people that said, you can do it. Fight the good fight. Stay focused. Don't get distracted. Don't listen to the naysayers. You can do this. And running for borough president, knowing the historical nature of the race, was something that I thought about all the time. And it was hard because sometimes you let the naysayers get to you. You let the negativity get to you. But even on those tough days, I was reminded of people like Aurelia Green and Helen Diane Foster and Gloria Davis and Tish James and Darcel Clark and so many who struggled themselves. And if they listened to the people around them, they wouldn't be where they are today. So I kept pushing and pushing. And I said, I can't give up. I had too much on the line. There was too much at stake. Too many little girls and little boys that were looking up to me and wanted me to succeed and not fail. And so it feels good. It's a great feeling to know that I've risen to this level, but I also don't want to take advantage of it. I want to use the time that I'm here, the reason that I'm here, the season that I'm here to really make a difference and not just be a face, not just be a name and someone that makes history, but what are you going to do about it to make a difference?
Amen. Thank you for that. You do have a village. Okay, Walter. Anyone else on the panel? Chris or Jean? You have anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a question. Congratulations, first and foremost.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I know you'll do your best. So that's good enough for us, right? With the mayor saying that he's going to be bringing back the plainclothes division of the police force, and going back, I don't think he's doing stop and frisk per se. They didn't say that, but how do you feel about that task force coming back with all the gun violence that's going on?
That's a very good question. I think that Mayor Eric Adams gets it. He gets that this is a very fine line that he has to walk to create balance and equity in the system, to not repeat the mistakes of the past where we had stop, question, and frisk, where all young Black and brown men and women were assumed to be criminals, were stopped and frisked, and a majority of them were not guilty of any serious crime. I think he realizes that gun violence is out of control. There's too many guns. The supply is overwhelming. But even as important as it is to reduce the supply of guns, is also the importance of the mindset of young people picking up a gun in the first place. And the fact that communities like ours don't have enough jobs and programs and community centers for young people. And the reason why they pick up weapons is because they want to be safe and they don't feel protected by police or by our residents. That is a problem. And I know he takes it personal as the mayor, as a Black man, and as a father. And I take it personal as a Black woman, as the borough president as well. So this new unit that he wants to create is not going to be a reinstitution of the anti-crime unit that many of us remember, of plainclothes officers who went out there and terrorized our neighborhoods, but rather it's going to be a unit that would be established that would have a directive to handle getting guns off the street and really have a focus on building in the community, not inciting fear in our neighborhoods, but really creating the balance. So I'm ready, willing, and able to support Mayor Adams. I know that he's got a very ambitious blueprint for public safety that doesn't just include the police. It includes the courts, the judges, the district attorneys, the prosecutors, summer youth, programs, community centers. It has to involve everyone because police are not the only answer. If police were able to stop crime and prevent the overabundance of guns, they would have done that already. So that tells you that they are not the only answer, that there are other elements we have to think about when you talk about public safety. But the reality is, a lot of New Yorkers, a lot of Bronxites don't feel safe. And until people feel safe, because perception and reality are two different things, we are still the biggest and safest, largest city in the country. But if our people don't feel safe, then our work is not done.
Jane?
Yes. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being a friend to the show, Vanessa. And congratulations on being the first, being Black and being a woman as Bronx Borough President. For those that do not know, when Vanessa served in the city council, my assembly district actually fell within her city council district jurisdiction. And it's been a pleasure to fight and work alongside her in the past, and I look forward to our continued relationship in the future. I wanted to shift gears. I saw pictures on Facebook. You were at the New York State Democratic Convention. Were you the elected official that casted the nominations for the Bronx? And if so, was it your first time? And if so, how did that feel?
My involvement in the convention for this year was only for the purposes of seconding the nomination of Chuck Schumer as our Democratic nominee for the United States Senate. Because I'm the borough president, I am not allowed to serve as a member of the state Democratic Party in any form, whether it's state committee, district leader, county committee. I cannot serve in any of those roles. So my only function was to be there to literally support Chuck Schumer because he asked me.
You have anything else before I move on? Okay, I see that you're on mute, so let me move forward. I want to circle back some of the things that we discussed, such as, the violence, the fire, things of that nature. I will be following up on those, okay, because I want to just drill down a little bit. But I understand it has to be tempered with the amount of time you've been in office and how you've been hit, But I do want your opinion and what your plans are, or if you haven't formulated a plan, just say, yeah, I'm aware of it. But I do want to ask you a few more questions, okay, around what we spoke about earlier. Now, the first thing is, now, based on the constant drumbeat of bad news coming out of the Bronx, what steps are you taking to reduce gun violence in your borough? And are you working along with Mayor Adams, or is just a directive that comes from him that you implement? How does that work?
Right. So it's twofold. The mayor obviously has jurisdiction over all 5 boroughs, including the Bronx. So whatever platform blueprint he implements will have an impact on the Bronx as it relates to the resources for the NYPD, for probation, for corrections, or any organization that gets funding from city agencies. That will come from the city council and the mayor. But as the borough president, I have a voice. I'm a partner with Mayor Adams and his team, but also the borough. NYPD has a patrol borough Bronx. The assistant chief is Phil Rivera. He is the chief commanding officer of all 12 precincts. We also have a chief that oversees housing, which is PSA 7 and PSA 8. We have a chief of transit that oversees Transit District 11 and 12. Those are the entities that cover all law enforcement, specifically NYPD in the Bronx. So we are working. There are a number of initiatives in the blueprint for public safety. This anti-crime unit is going to involve 30 different precincts across New York City. A majority of the Bronx 12 precincts are in that. I think it's 10 out of 12 that will be involved. So we will get those resources. But also the summer youth component, we're going to get those jobs. And from a borough president's perspective, I am looking to build out a brand new unit in our office that is related to public safety, an office of public safety for the borough president's office. And I will make sure that this team assembled works closely with the anti-gun violence organizations, the violence interrupters, hospital responders, the mediators, the conflict resolution team, BRAG, SOS, Stand Up to Violence, RTG, Guns Down, Life Up. So many organizations that represent the Bronx. I have a good relationship with them. I will be working with them on expanding their catchment area and building more capacity. And then also, I think there are other elements. I have to work with clergy, faith leaders. We have to work with NYPD, but there are so many other people that play a role in public safety. But also remember, public safety and the feeling of being safe is much more than police presence. It's the programs, it's the resource centers, it's the recreation programs, but it's also lighting. Lighting is a big part of public safety. Cameras are a big part of public safety. Those are other agencies. Some of it is revolved around Parks Department, DOT Department. So I'm talking to everyone. We each of our precincts has a precinct council. So we're also working with that leadership as well. Some of our community boards have a committee on public safety. So we're working with them as well. So this is multi-layered because I think at the end of the day, the fact that 34% of the crime in New York City comes from the Bronx, when the Bronx is only 17% of the population in New York City, we have a problem.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
So you got a job ahead of you. So another question that I have for you around crime. What's your position on bail reform and raise the age?
Good questions. So I initially supported bail reform and still do to this day. I support Raise the Age. I was not a state legislator at the time, but I do remember the support by the state assembly and Senate and the implementation at a local level. I do understand many, many concerns, and I do think the rollout of both could have been done a lot better in terms of education on the ground to New Yorkers so that many of them understood what it is that we did. Raise the Age was important because New York and North Carolina were the only two states that still prosecuted 16 and 17-year-olds as adults. And we know in many cases, 16 and 17-year-olds should be treated as youth and not criminals as adults in certain cases. Mayor Adams has talked about tweaks to both Raise the Age and bail reform. And I think that's something that should be considered and obviously talked about before we have any knee-jerk reaction. But the one thing I do want to make clear to the viewers is 90% of the individuals who are out on bail right now, and since it was implemented in 2020, have not gotten rearrested, have not reoffended, have not engaged in recidivism and gone back into the criminal justice system. The 10% that has been rearrested and reoffended, repeat offenders, are who are making it bad and a nightmare for the entire city of New York. And that's a very small population. But again, if you live in a neighborhood and you represent some of that 10%, that's all you see. You don't see the 90% that we talk, so well about in terms of them being good citizens and productive parts of our community. So I think, again, the education could have been better. The rollout could have been much better. But I do think the members of the Assembly and the Senate, led by Speaker Hasty and Leader Stewart Cousins, are engaging and having conversations with Mayor Adams about what those tweaks look like. But obviously, no one is asking for a complete rescinding on the entire law. No one is saying that. I think a lot of advocates are saying something is wrong and we need to relook at the system to find out where we can make changes. And I think that's a valid point that's worthy of further discussion.
Any questions from the panel?
Yes, President Bronx President Gibson, real quick, we have a huge dilemma with mental illness and homelessness. And I saw it and I heard Mayor Adams speaking about that. How do you feel about that? Because during COVID time, they didn't have the services that they needed. And because COVID, 1 minute they're saying, wear your mask. The next minute they're not. Do you see things opening up anytime soon to get these services for these people that need help?
Yes, I do. And Mayor Adams has understood the challenges because just at the beginning of this year, we've had several incidents involving individuals with mental illnesses and emotional disturbances, namely the shoving on subway platforms. We had a young woman, Asian American, who was pushed off a subway platform by someone who had a mental illness. We had another Asian American woman in Chinatown last week who was followed into her apartment and fatally stabbed. And there are so many more cases and instances, even those that are on the streets, as well as in our subways. We have seen homelessness overwhelmingly across the city. And I think it was further exacerbated by COVID-19. The mayor has been working with Governor Hochul as it relates to transit, how we can make the trains safer so that all commuters feel safe. Putting transit cops on the trains and not just the platform and up by the token booth, but making sure that they're walking the platform, they're walking the trains. But until we find a way to have comprehensive mental health services and looking at opportunities of supportive housing, a lot of these individuals can live independent. They are functioning in terms of their self-sufficiency. They just need programs and they need housing, but you can't stick them into an apartment without social services on site. They need clinicians, they need psychiatrists. Many of them are living with illnesses and substance abuse and drug abuse and just lots of challenges they're facing. But it doesn't mean we have to give up on them. Society has given up on them. That's why they're reacting the way they are. So if you are seeing them on the train or on the corner, a lot of people turn their eye away. They turn away from these individuals. But at any given time, that could be one of our loved ones, and we want them to get help. So we are deploying, obviously, more mental health counselors, more social workers, We have to work with our shelter system for the single adults that are in shelters today to get them into long-term housing. We have to build more affordable housing that provides the supportive housing that is necessary. I think, and I know Mayor Adams is getting it, and I see he's already made 2 announcements. He made one a few weeks ago with Governor Hochul in the subway station, and he also made an announcement today about deploying more mental health counselors to really address the street homelessness and the homelessness in the subway.
All right, Gene?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Chris, before I move on.
I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement real quick, because we are focusing, as we should, on the fact that she's the first female and she's African American. And I just want to make sure people know the importance of voting in people who have shared interests. I just want to point out the case in Minnesota where the judge reduced the sentence of that police officer because she felt sorry for her and she empathized with her. And that's why it's very important at local levels that we vote in people that have strong interests, that have like-minded interests in our community, and they will hold the police accountable and to make sure that that incident doesn't happen and it doesn't get to the point where it's in a broken court system where she can make that kind of mistake, egregious mistake, by lowering that sentence. I just want to tell people it is so important. I'm so happy that you're in that position, and I know you're going to do great.
Thank you.
All right, I want to pivot now and talk about, I know we spoke about, I don't believe we spoke about poverty. All right, the CCC found that families in the Bronx are facing the greatest threats to housing and economic security compared to other counties, all other counties in New York. More than 40% of children in the Bronx are living in poverty, according to their analysis, compared to 20.6% statewide. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, of course. Well, I certainly have heard those statistics before. Certainly at the top of my priority list. I'm no stranger to the challenges we face in the Bronx every day around food equity, food justice, healthcare, economic development, and real affordable housing. I think a lot of times it's about the opportunities that we are afforded and given as a borough. We have been under-resourced for many, many years. We have been disinvested in for many, many years. I think it's about building stable housing, but it's also about ownership opportunities. It's about financial literacy and empowerment programs. And it's about really creating the good paying jobs that create a pathway to the middle class. So we should be building up the next carpenters and electricians and plumbers for those young people that don't see a pipeline to college. We should be allowing them to get into apprenticeship programs so they have a real pathway to the future. We should be working with formerly incarcerated young men and women who society has given up on and give them a second and third and fourth chance when a lot of times they have a record and no one wants to give them a job, but they have a lot of skills that no one has tapped into. A lot of the poverty that you see is concentrated in certain areas. It is low income people of color. It's immigrant families. It's African American, Latino, African, the Garifuna community. And it's struggling people sometimes that have not been given the right opportunities. So as borough president, we want to focus on economic development. You see all the construction happening in the Bronx, but where are the local jobs for our people? Where are the opportunities that we should be given? And I'm not talking about being a flagger. I'm talking about the opportunities like carpentry and electrician and plumbing and lather and painters and all the other trades where we know young men and women of color have the talents and the skill sets to do these jobs very, very well. Issues like poverty take a very long time. Remember, the system is designed to do exactly what it is doing. To disrupt the status quo, to disrupt the system, it's going to take a lot of time and energy and money and resources and a plan. And that's something that won't happen overnight. So as I'm in week 8, obviously putting together a plan, but working with all the elected officials and all of my stakeholders to make sure that we try to put a serious dent, right? A dent. That's all we can do at this point, put a dent into this system so that people can start to slowly but surely have a real pathway to the middle class.
I want to ask you about going back to safety, security. Yes, Jane.
Walter, yeah, I would just like to add on to what Vanessa was saying.
Okay.
And in this instant, I'm actually defending Vanessa when I say that there are several levels or layers of government, and what I don't want to see is people try to stockpile Vanessa with all of these responsibilities. And there are other elected officials that can take responsibility and make changes within their respective districts. For instance, if you go to my Facebook page, it looks like a job bank. Every day I'm posting 2 to 3 different, and I get these announcements from the New York State Department of Labor. So they're living wages and there's full benefits. So I encourage a lot of the district leaders, we're the ones that are on the ground while Vanessa is doing her job, while our city council woman, Althea Stevens, is down at City Hall advocating, while State Senator Luis Sepulveda and Assemblywoman Chantel Jackson are up in Albany advocating for us leaders and the committee members that are supposed to reach out to the people and help and come up with comprehensive plans. During the food insecurity, I reached out to a few people. Next thing I know, I was giving out food every day and it was coming in abundance. You know, so when I speak of layers of government, I'm actually trying to activate other people, because if they bring resources to the table, then it lightens the load on Vanessa. And guess what? She can do more. And with that, I'll digress.
Thank you. Yes, Vanessa. I'm just going on with Vanessa for now, if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay. What's your position on school safety? Since we were speaking about, crime and things, but we had let me just give you a little background. We had a group of pro school security officers remaining under the NYPD, but there was some initiative started wherein they would report to the DOE, Department of Education. What is your position on that issue? And do you think they're doing an effective job in the schools, the current structure that we have in place?
Yep, I appreciate and truly salute school safety agents. During the pandemic, when many of our schools were open, school safety agents were holding down buildings, providing food through grab and go, and making sure that families and children were given food during a pandemic. School safety has been under attack for quite some time, and I understand when many advocates and parents come to me and say they don't want no cops in schools. I remind everyone that school safety are technically not cops. They are civilians. They do not have weapons. They don't have guns, but they have other tools in their toolbox that they are given to provide safety for our children and educators and administrators and everyone that's in our school buildings and campuses. A few years ago, when we were first hit with the pandemic, I was in the city council and we had a very tough budget. We had a $7 billion loss in revenue and a $9 billion budget deficit that we had to close. And one of the things that we were being forced and pressured and advocated to do was to reduce the abundance of the police presence across the city by reducing the police's budget and shifting that money to summer youth and healthcare programs. And within that, a lot of people didn't understand that this is about numbers matching up. School safety is about $350 million, around 5,500 school safety agents, a majority of whom are Black and Latina women of color who are many single parents that need these jobs. Under no circumstances was I ever going to allow school safety agents to be laid off and get a pink slip in the middle of a pandemic. Some people wanted us to do that, but we said, hell no, we're not doing that to nobody, certainly not women of color. So secondly, in the budget that we passed, there was potentially going to be a transfer of school safety back to DOE, which is the way it was under the, I believe, Koch administration or Giuliani, one of the two, as well as school crossing guards, was going to go from NYPD over to the Department of Transportation. And again, we did that because we had to get to a number. They wanted us to cut $1 billion in the NYPD budget. There was no way we got to $1 billion without impacting the workforce and headcount and response times to emergency calls. So school safety at 350 was in that $1 billion that we had to get to. So that's the reason why it was put on the list. A lot of people didn't like it, but now guess what? 2 years later, and it's not happening. School safety remains under NYPD. School safety, school crossing guards remains under NYPD. They're not going to leave. I believe they're a part of the solution and not the problem. We have to work with them. If we want to reimagine public safety, we have to reimagine how our school safety agents are working in schools. And it also means that they're the first point of contact. A lot of times they know what's going down in our schools. They know what students are being bullied. They keep our kids safe. Kids are bringing weapons to school because the neighborhood isn't safe, not because the school isn't safe. So if you send your child to school and there's no metal detector and the child sitting next to your kid in school has a knife or a gun, what do you want us to do? Like, this is not an easy conversation to have if you have a parent whose child was a victim of a crime in their own school. I don't like metal detectors. I was at the Theodore Roosevelt campus this week and I had to go through a metal detector and it feels like you're going in a jail. But I understand it's there for a reason, to keep people safe. Would I like to see a reduction of metal detectors in our schools? Absolutely. But that's only if we can phase them out in a right way. And a lot of times we've had some incidents like Fannie Lou Hamer. We had a stabbing in that school and people wanted to have a knee-jerk reaction and put metal detectors. And guess what? The parents said, no, our school is safe. This was an isolated incident and we don't want metal detectors in our school. So what am I supposed to do? Force metal detectors on a school that doesn't want it, that's really safe? So again, I struggle with this as the borough president. I want to find balance, but I want to do it while we support the work of school safety.
Okay. And what about the school safety officers that left or were laid off? I heard they were down a couple of thousand.
Laid off through what, attrition or through the vaccine mandate?
I believe they were, now, I can't say for sure. All right, because we did have a group saying that they at one point they had 5,000, now they got about 3,000. Now that could be through attrition or no.
Now what's the number? What's the number, Walt?
There was 5,000 at one time, then it's down. Now it's down to around 3,000.
Okay, well, I would like to see that in writing. I'd like to check with school safety. I don't know that we've lost 2,000 school safety agents in a year. I can't imagine that happening. I know that with attrition, there were some agents that may have left for many different reasons. With the vax mandate, I know we lost about 1,400 city workers, and 900 of that 1,400 are DOE workers. Now, school safety is under NYPD. So the NYPD numbers were much less than 900. So I would have to look into that, because if that is the case, obviously we need to have a conversation about vacant positions that we need to backfill to get them up to their head count and where they need to be. Because at the end of the day, we have a little over 1.2 million school kids, over 1,800 school buildings, and we need to make sure that our schools are safe.
Okay. And Vanessa, I'll go back and double check that, but I do know that at the end of the day, they're understaffed. Their staffing levels are much lower than they were.
Okay.
All right. I want to circle back now to the recent fire event wherein 17 people died, unfortunately. And God bless them and their families. The survivors, a lot of them had to move out of the building. What is the status now? Have they all been settled, or are y'all guys still working on that?
Nope, it's still a work in progress. It's been 7 weeks, and the residents and families of Twin Parks have been forever changed. Many of them are traumatized. They had to run for their lives. One apartment that had a faulty space heater caused this 5-alarm fire that took the lives of 17 people, 9 adults and 8 children, the youngest being 2 years old. It's been it's been very painful. It's been heart-wrenching. to talk to families who've lost loved ones. We had families where all the children passed away, a mother and father and three children. We had another mother that lost three children. We had a young man that lost his mother and his little brother. It's been very painful. And a predominantly working class immigrant building, West Africans, Latinos, African Americans, working class. Many have been there for generations. 19-story building, 120 units. And right now, a third of the building has returned to Twin Parks. They want to stay. They are not leaving. We are working with them on renovations and repairs within their apartment. We were giving out air purifiers. We have just lots of things that we're doing in the buildings, replacing windows and doors and locks. And, you know, the smoke smell, the hallways that have been damaged. A lot of work has happened in the building by management and by the landlord. We believe that about 2/3 of the building will be permanently relocating. We have organizations on the ground. Bronx Works is doing case management. CVR is doing housing assistance. And both organizations are tasked with helping families relocate. Those that have a voucher, transferring the voucher, and seeing if they have a household size, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, a duplex, looking at the needs of these families. We gave out free tablets with 6 months of free Wi-Fi for all the children in the building because many of them go to public schools here in the Bronx. We are providing as much as we can, counseling and support. The Department of Ed has been amazing. Office of Emergency Management, FDNY, American Red Cross. We got an overwhelming amount of supplies, household items, footwear, clothing, outerwear, winter garments, clothes, shoes, everything you can think of. The Monroe College opened their site as an evacuation center. We had all the city agencies there doing the services on the ground. The families that are permanently relocating are still housed in hotels through March 7th. We believe that there are about 35 families that have already signed brand new leases. They're in the process of moving. Many families have been given thousands of dollars from a multitude of different sources, churches, the Mayor's Fund, the Gambian Youth Organization. We got donations from Amazon, from Trinity United Church, from the Bronx Group. They raised $100,000. I did a show with Fat Joe and Remy on Hot 97. We raised over $1 million. There's been a groundswell of support. I have never seen such resilience and strength by the Bronx. I've never experienced anything like this. I've had a lot of tragedy, but I've never been to a funeral with 15 caskets. Never in my life would I ever imagine. So it's been hard, but we're still working. We're not giving up. And even the families that remain at Twin Parks, we know there's a lot of issues with fire safety, smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, self-closing doors. We need to make sure that heat is given sufficiently. That's the reason why families are using space heaters in the first place, because the landlord has not provided sufficient heat and hot water. But we also know that families in Twin Park are no different from the families that are living in other parts of the Bronx. They're also using space heaters too. So we just want people to be safe. We held fire safety training last week with the FDNY and American Red Cross. We're going to continue to do that because we can never get educated enough on what to do in the event of a fire. But obviously, in that split second, when your life is on the line, people will run for their lives. Thank you to the firefighters, over 200 that responded and really made this much less of a tragedy. They saved lives. If FDNY didn't respond, we would have lost more than 17 people.
Well, any questions from the panel? All right, let's move on. I've noticed, throughout my life that, issues that come up like this, it's always reactive. We're reactive. Oh, this happened. Okay, now we got to take these steps instead of being proactive. This risk mitigation type department with, that you can set aside and say, okay, y'all guys, I want you to deal with risk, possible, potential, and how will we mitigate a certain scenario should it happen? Would you have you thought about anything along those lines?
I have. I always think about finding purpose within pain and finding solutions in the middle of a storm. And a tragedy of this magnitude, losing 17 people, finding some sort of a learning lesson. and finding ways to never repeat it again. And a lot of this is around the landlord accountability and holding government accountable and making sure that when people call 311 and they have complaints and issues in their apartment, that we respond. When people are calling about no heat, we need to make sure that there is sufficient heat. We need to reduce the likelihood of families having to use space heaters in the first place. And a lot of that can be addressed by legislation together with Richie Torres, Udelka Tapia, Gustavo Rivera, Oswald Feliz, and Piarina Sanchez, all the elected officials at the federal, state, and local level that represent Twin Parks. We formulated a fire education and safety task force, and we've already introduced legislation to regulate space heaters at the federal level to make sure that they have a tipping option and also an automatic shutoff. Because in many cases, space heaters are running for hours and days and they're not safe. So we also want to make sure that we're holding landlords accountable to provide sufficient heat, to make sure the self-closing doors close, to make sure the buildings have fire escapes and fire alarms and smoke alarms that actually work. So there's a lot of things that we can and should do. We should not wait for the next tragedy before we enact legislative reform and we really provide the policies that are necessary to save lives and protect people.
Okay, thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you for your patience in answering these questions. Just one other question I have for you. Okay, breaking news. Have you endorsed anyone for governor?
Governor of New York?
Yes.
Oh, not individually, no.
I wanted some breaking news, but no. But yeah, I just want to know whether you have come to some type of decision on who you want to fall behind. I know it's early, but
it's early, and I like Governor Kathy Hochul. She just got the nomination of the state party at yesterday's convention with over 85% of the vote.
right.
I'm trying to, kind of take it easy and really focus on being borough president. There are a lot of races coming up this year, members of Congress, state Senate, state assembly, and there are some open seats as a result of redistricting. So I'm just trying to see where I can be supportive. But obviously, my main focus is being borough president. At the end of the day, I need to take care of home.
All right. Any parting words you want to you have for our listeners?
I just want to say thank you.
Close down soon.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to all the Bronx residents, no matter where you live, no matter what zip code you live in. I am proud to be your borough president. And this is something that I have dreamed of that I never thought would ever happen. And I realize the great weight that I carry on my shoulders every day. But if you know me, you know that I'm a hard worker. I don't take struggle easily. I don't, take a fight without fighting back. I am someone who is resilient, who is tough, who's committed, who's dedicated, who's consistent, who's ready to hit the ground running. I will be in the trenches with you. People are often surprised when they see me show up at events because they don't think I would show up. And I said, of course, I have to be with my people. And so you may find me at the block party, at the family day, giving out PPE, giving out COVID testing kits, whatever it is. We just want to make sure that we remind residents that they're not alone, that better and brighter days lie ahead, and we will get through this. This is the celebration of Dominican Heritage Month. So I want to recognize all of our incredible Dominican Americans that are out there that are doing such great work. I also want to recognize all of our amazing African American leaders during Black History Month. I want to say thank you. We have a lot of events coming out. So please follow us on social media. My handle is BronxBP on Twitter, BronxBpGibson on Instagram and Facebook. Follow me, look me up, Vanessa L Gibson. You can Google me, our website, any information you need, please let us know. You can also sign up to get our newsletter via email. We're also entertaining applicants for the local community board. They're due on March 3rd. And next Thursday, February 24th at 11 a.m., we have a virtual public hearing on the mayor's FY23 preliminary budget. If you are interested in testifying, please reach out to us. But at the end of the day, we are here to serve you. My team and I are excited. And like Mayor Eric Adams, we want to get stuff done. So God bless you all.
Amen.
Stay safe and be healthy.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best to you, and I know you're going to do a fantastic job.
Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right, Michelle.
Yes, thank you, Walter, and thank you to our special guest, Madam Vanessa L Gibson, Bronx Borough President. It was such a pleasure to have you on the Walk Weekly once again, and thank you for supporting our podcast. Thank you to our live audience and our panel members, Gene Edwards and Christopher Sweeney, and of course, once again, our live audience for joining us and your participation in the chat room. This show will be rebroadcast this Sunday at 3 p.m. on all streaming platforms. Please join us this Monday for our Monday night edition at 6 p.m. as we have guest Kevin Ward Alley of Prince Mason Hall. You can follow us and get weekly updates and at the Walt's Corners at www.thewaltweekly.com, IG and Facebook, The Walt Weekly, Twitter, Walt Weekly, Podbeam, The Walt Weekly, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all streaming platforms. Thank you all for joining us, and thank Miss Gibson once again for gracing us with her presence. Have an awesome weekend.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Good night.
And we'll see you Monday. We'll see you Monday.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes, Monday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Good night.